Hello, everyone. I'm Kay Unger, and I'm here today with Pat Shea. Pat and I serve as the Women Business Collaborative's Ally of Her Initiative co chairs. For those of you who are new to the Women Business Collaborative, or WBC, we are an unprecedented alliance of 60 plus women's business organizations and hundreds of business leaders building a movement to achieve equal position, pay, and power for all women in business. Through collaboration, advocacy, action, and accountability, we mobilize thousands of diverse professional women and men business organizations, public and private companies to accelerate change. Please allow me to introduce our two extraordinary guests who I now have met for a few minutes. Mendy Mazzo, Corporate SVP, National Business Development for Skanska, one of the largest construction and development companies in the United States and internationally. Mendy has over 25 plus years with Skanska. You look too young for that, Mendy.
Thank
Our
you.
is currently retired, Joey Hatch. Joey was employed for over 22 years by Skanska, where he served as the SVP, EVP, and finally COO for Skanska Central US Operations. During many of those years, Joey was Mendy's direct boss. We're going to hear some great stories. Both Mendy and Joey have a passion for issues related to diversity, inclusion, and of course, allyship. So Pat, since you, Mendy, and Joey are dear friends, let me turn it over to you for this really exciting conversation.
Thank you, Kay. That was wonderful. Welcome, everybody, to the WBC Faster Together LinkedIn Live series. The WBC's Ally of Her is specifically focused on inviting more men into our work, partnering with men, and being clear on how men and women, for that matter, to become better allies in the workplace supports the WBC's 9 action initiatives. From increasing women in the C-suite and on boards to addressing the underrepresentation of women with access to capital and in certain industries to building a pipeline of women leaders. Having true allies in the workplace helps us achieve gender equity in the business world today. For today's conversation, I'm going to start with Mendy, a dear friend. And as Kay mentioned, I know both of these people very well, and they are amazing. So Mendy, according to research, 1 in 5 women today still report being the only woman in the room. And this happens much more frequently for women like you who are in senior leadership positions or male-dominated professions like construction. You are a phenomenally successful woman at Skanska. So would you share your journey and share with us how Joey's allyship of you played a significant role in your career?
Sure. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's just an honor to be here. I'm honored to be part of this conversation, also a member of WBC. And it's always a treat to have conversations like this with Joey, who is my longtime mentor, was my boss, as Pat mentioned, and friend. So we've known each other for over 20 years. So he's enjoying retirement now, and I've got a little ways to go before I get there. But yeah, I actually met Joey about 2 weeks after I came back from maternity leave from having my first child. And he took over the Nashville office of Skanska. And I have to be honest, at that time, I had gone through a major life change and was a couple of weeks back to work and thought, wow, now I've got to learn a new boss. And what's this guy about? And little did I know that that was going to be just a pivotal day for me professionally. So Joey and I worked together. I got to know him fairly quickly. I was in a marketing director position at that time and reported to our VP of business development. And that particular individual ended up leaving the company. And just, I guess, a few months after Joey took over. And so I went to Joey and I said, hey, I know we'll need to backfill this position. And I don't have that experience, but I've always wanted to be more client facing. What would you think about giving me the opportunity to do this? And he just leaned back in his chair and he said, well, I think that's a good idea. He said, why don't we just do that? And so we talked for a little bit. And he said, I've had some people give me some good opportunities in my career. So he said, the worst thing that can happen is either you don't like it or you're not good at it and you can go back to the job that you're doing now. So that was kind of our first conversation about career. But then as we worked together over the next few years, we had a really interesting working relationship because I had heard Joey mention that he had said, hey, I've been given some good opportunities, but I've also seized those opportunities. And I don't remember who actually told you this, Joey, but at one point you shared with me that someone had said, hey, you're not always going to be the smartest person in the room, but if you can work harder than everybody else in the room, that's going to get you a long way. So that really stuck with me. And early on, and I was really eager to learn. I was really curious. At the time that I joined the local leadership team in Nashville, you're right. I mean, construction is one of the most white male dominated industries historically. Not unlike the legal profession and others, manufacturing, but thanks to people like Joey within Skanska, we have made a lot of progress. It's always a journey and we always need to be doing more, and we are. But at that time, it was myself and one other female on the leadership team. So to your point earlier, Pat, that's especially 20 years ago, the working world looked much different than it does now. And it was difficult navigating being in that position, being a new mother, just being married for a few years, traveling, which my husband is a great partner and has always supported me. And I often say I wouldn't be where I am without my husband and without Joey. They both kind of pushed me in different ways, but I think I was able to bring some light to some things that Joey hadn't experienced in his journey either. So I think that's the really cool thing about us working together is I feel like we learn from each other. And I never really thought of it that way. I always felt like I was learning because he had 20 years experience on me when we met. But as far as being an ally, I've said this many times that white men don't have to be passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but there are a lot of them that do choose to be passionate about it, and they can be some of the best allies. And I've certainly found that with my relationship with Joey. So, not unlike a coach, Joey pushed me. He set the bar pretty high, and if I messed up on something, he was the first one to say, okay, what'd you learn from it? How are we going to do something different? And he really pushed me. He did not cut me any slack because I was a woman. He did not cut me any slack, because we had a, good working relationship. In fact, I do consider him a dear friend, but I think it's also important when you have these type of relationships professionally that there's a fine line there. And it doesn't matter if it's, male to male, male, female, but you want someone to push you and be an ally for you, but you also want to make sure that you keep those boundaries of not being buddy, right? Yes. Not, going out to the bars afterwards and having a drink. So, but in a professional way, really holding each other accountable, and also pushing each other outside of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I've seen Joey do this for many people within Skanska, both men and women. Yes. But as far as his allyship for me, I'll touch on this, and I'm sure you want to ask a few more questions and get to Joey, but this is the best way for me to explain it. People say, well, I guess Joey opened a lot of doors for you. And that's actually not true. Joey didn't open doors for me. What Joey did is he would say, hey, there's the door. If you want to go through that door, you can do it, but I'm not going to open it for you. Here's what you need to do. And a lot of times I would walk slowly toward that door, and sometimes I would run to the door. And then he was always there to support me. And we didn't always agree. We had many times over our working relationship, agree to disagree moments, but I think we both learned from those and we're better off for it.
So Mendy, can you tell me a story or give me one specific example where Joey listened, he elevated, he sort of went above and beyond in a time when maybe you needed that feeling of confidence that somebody in the work environment was, on your side?
Yes. I will give you a specific example. And this actually happened right before Joey retired. So Joey is a planner, and he had been planning his retirement and succession planning for 3 or 4 years before he retired. And so I was a senior VP of business development in the Nashville office at that time. About 4 months before he retired, I got asked to interview for the position I have now, which is a corporate position working with all of our offices across the country. So I was kind of mixed feelings about it. I was excited to be asked, but I wasn't sure I had the experience or I just really wasn't sure if I had enough experience and the skill set to do it. But I talked to my husband, talked to a few people, including Pat and others in my personal board of directors. And Joey was the last call I made because I was really nervous because I knew he had this plan in place and he was going to leave Nashville, Skanska in capable hands. So I remember this vividly. It was a Sunday afternoon and I said, hey, I texted him. I said, I need to talk to you for a few minutes if you have a minute. So he said, okay. So he called me right away. And I said, hey, I've been asked to interview for this corporate position on the senior leadership team. And, I think I'm going to do it, but I'm not really sure I would take it even if I got it. And I was just kind of doing all this backpedaling. And Joey said, hey, whoa, stop right there. He said, you're going to go up to New York. You're going to interview for this position and you're going to get it. And I said, okay. He said, no, I'm serious. I said, well, what about all these plans we had in Nashville? And he said, that will all work itself out. And I said, well, I was really nervous about talking to you. Not that I thought you would discourage me, but I was kind of torn. And he was like, nope, you go up there and you get this job. And so I did. And I'm excited. It's been 4 years and it has been a great opportunity for me. We actually have half of our senior leadership team for Skanska nationally for US building is female. So we have made a lot of progress in the 20 years since, at the local level, it was just me and one other woman.
That's great. So his plan was less important, obviously.
That's
than
right.
Career,
Right.
which I love. So Joey, comment on what it feels like to hear her story, the way she tells it about you, but also I'm really interested to know if you were aware of the impact that you were having on Mendy's career over all of these years.
All right. Well, I always tried to be a good ally and mentor for the folks that I was working with. But I'd say probably in the mid 90s, we started to take a particular interest in working harder with females and people of color to make sure they could get a hand up in our industry because it was, as Mendy said, so white male dominated. Mendy, we've known each other 20 years. We met on October the 11th, 2001. Mendy was a small town girl with a very strong work ethic. And I got to give her mother, Peggy, all the credit for instilling that in her at a young age. She's an amazing person, wife, mother, business colleague, and friend. I've always described Mendy as the finest Christian woman I've ever known. And that's the foundation of her strength as she worked and advanced through life and at Skanska. She's tireless, but she's not intimidated by anything or anyone. And interesting that she used the door analogy because that's the next thing I'm going to say. If you got her to the door of opportunity and just cracked it open, she would bust it down. I mean, that's how she was, and she made the best of every situation. So we did give her the opportunity to become that sales leader and business development leader. And I told her when we talked, I said, you can't have the job in the title, but you can get the job in the title. And so that started the relationship, and she was a tireless worker. And we fought some good fights together. One quick story, Mendy was going to represent Skanska at a meeting for a large hospital project in West Tennessee, but she was going to have to work with another Skanska office. So the guy, the VP of that office, called me and he said, hey, I heard you were sending some gal down from Nashville to the meeting. And well, I'm not sure the folks in this small town will cotton to no gal being involved. And I said, well, first of all, you better not ever use that term gal referring to her because she will come down there and kick your butt. Second, she's a professional. She represents Skanska in a great way. And not only will she be attending the meeting, but she'll be running it on our behalf. He politely apologized and immediately changed his tune. So I did him a big favor so that he didn't call her gal in person and then get hurt by it. All right, I'm ready for the next question if you are, Pat.
So I know you were intentional because you've already talked about that. So your support of Mendy was intentional, but what were your own, did you have any personal motivation? Was there anything in this for you that you could see?
Well, intentional, it's interesting that you use that word because that's maybe my favorite word as I navigate through life. I use it with my children and my grandchildren all the time. As I told y'all before we got on here, I had a traditional great role model in my father and some others in school and business, but I didn't have any grandfathers. They were both gone when I was born, but I had a lot of strong, smart, and bold female role models. Uh, Two grandmothers, my mother, two older sisters, my lovely bride of almost 46 years, my two grown daughters, and with my four amazing grandchildren, three are granddaughters. So I've been able to learn and grow in life from all these experiences. I've also had some fabulous female role models as community partners like you, Miss Shea, Nancy Eisenbrandt, Donna Griggs, Sharon Reynolds. So I've been really fortunate in that regard. So yeah, I've seen life through a lot of strong female leaders' eyes. And so yeah, to some degree, I've been real intentional about that.
Well, we could do a whole series on what you did as an ally helping me end violence against women and girls in Nashville. So thank you. Thank you for that. So Mendy, was Joey typical of the other men at Skanska, and did his behavior rub off? I mean, was he a role model for other men and the way they became allies to women?
Absolutely, Pat. So when Joey was on the senior leadership team, along with our current business unit president, Paul Hewins, who also is an amazing ally, and just an amazing leader. But the guys like Joey and Paul that always would say, hey, and this was 20 years ago, we haven't talked about diversity and inclusion in this meeting. We need to talk about this. They were always saying, this, we need to do something different. So going back to being intentional. So and then our previous business unit president, Mike McNally, Richard Kennedy, who also is over all of our business units here in the US now. So we have had and still have some amazing men that are allies within Skanska. So yes, absolutely role models for others, to look at things differently and look at people differently, knowing that everybody has their own story they're bringing to the table and also their own experiences. And what we found early on as we were talking with different people on our team there in Nashville is that, some people just weren't, they only had one experience. So they didn't understand what it was like to work with women, or because their wives had made the choice to stay at home, which is great. I made a different choice. So it was really this learning, sharing back and forth of, here's things that, may be offensive to some women that don't choose to stay at home, and others that, that go in the workforce. So anyway, I think we found the role models and also just the open dialogue and educating people on what we all bring to the table, and just celebrating our differences and our strengths.
Well, I kind of have a feeling that, well, I've always thought of Joey as unique, but I think Joey isn't as unique in Skanska, because didn't you all just get recognized by Forbes?
Yes, we were one of the top companies, for women. And yes, we're very, very proud of that. And, one of our core values is be better together at Skanska. And that really is all about, we work in construction and development. So it's all about being part of a team. And we all know that diverse teams are stronger teams and deliver better business results. Mm-hmm. So absolutely.
And then one more thing, Mendy, before I go back to Joey, you sit now on an international committee of women, don't you, within Skanska?
So yes, the pandemic has shut that down, obviously, because we can't travel, haven't been able to travel internationally. But no, I did serve for a few years on the Skanska Women's Advisory Group. And that was basically a group of women that came together and met with our global leadership team, group leadership team, to advise on topics related to Skanska from a woman's perspective and a woman in business perspective. And so through that, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of other female leaders in our business units from around the world. And that was a really great experience.
That's wonderful. So Joey, when you were being this terrific ally for Mendy, did other men ever question your behavior, or did you ever get an opportunity to mentor, other than that one story you already told, and sort of lead the way?
Yeah, we did that. We got to a point where it became part of the leadership team's mantra. And, we made sure that as we recruited females and people of color, that we gave them opportunities. They saw that. I mean, if you don't have the culture down, if people don't see that when they come into the room and notice the other leaders, and you walk them in a meeting room with 10 or 12 white men sitting in a room and say, welcome aboard. Yeah, that's a tough deal. But one of the things that Mendy taught me along the way, I got really good at construction in my first 25 years, but I wasn't really good in being out in the community. And so you talk about that being a two-way street. Mendy taught me a lot about giving back to the community, getting involved in the community. And it didn't take me long. Now, I'm an Auburn grad, Pat, so I was a little slow in learning that, but it didn't take me too long to understand that that is as big a part of what you do in the business world as your actual execution. So when I saw that and we started getting the whole company involved in the community and people were doing the work and we were giving back, that was all on her. She taught me that. I learned it well. And not only did it help in our business world, it really helped set me up for what I wanted to do when I retired. So, she gets all the credit for that.
That's wonderful. Your relationship with each other is so much fun. So we need to close it down. Mendy, I'm going to let you have one more comment. Any advice you have, any experiences you have talking to other women in construction, and should other construction organizations maybe be as aggressive in pursuing allyship as Skanska has been?
So absolutely, yes, other companies should be as aggressive as we are. And I'm very proud of what we've done and what we continue to do. So, I just think whether you're a woman in construction or any business, I think just really being open to learning different things, being curious. And also I get asked a lot, especially by women that are, right out of college or a few years into their career, is, what advice would you give? And I always say, don't assume that people know what you want to do. So if you want to do something, just like I went in Joey's office and said, hey, I'd like to try a hand at this business development thing. I've only done marketing. So just, saying, hey, this is what I'd like to do eventually, and at least having a conversation about what's the path to get there.
Thank you. I am going to turn it over to Kay to close this down. But
Thank you.
So appreciate your time. And
Thanks for having us.
It's all yours, Kay.
Okay, thank you, Mendy and Joey. What a story. And I love the door story because it relates to everything you've told us. And I really hope we can extend this conversation to other LinkedIn Lives. There's so much we can learn. Thank you, Pat, for being my partner on this critical project. To everyone listening, join us at WBC. We are the only women's business collaborative. Our mission is to create equal position, power, and pay for all women in business. And both of you give us many good examples of how this is done. And remember, every opportunity you have today, be an ally. All of you are such good examples. And I can't wait to speak to you more, but I believe our time is up. And I took great notes and learned a great deal.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you so much.